I need you to stop whatever you are doing right now. I need your full attention. Look directly at your screen because the map of the world was just redrawn a few hours ago. This is not about the Middle East. This is not about the South China Sea. The 86-year-old Continental Defense Alliance between the United States and Canada has completely shattered behind closed doors in this year of 2026. North American security has officially broken down. Right now, the platform algorithms are actively suppressing this massive geopolitical development that changes everything. If you do not hit that subscribe button immediately, you are going to be left completely blind to the sudden waves of inflation and energy crises that are set to hit your wallet next week. Subscribe right now. Do not be the last person to find out what is coming down the line. This is the exact moment the tables turned. Prime Minister Mark Carney just stood in Yellowknife and issued a massive $40 billion ultimatum straight to Washington. Canada is quietly building an impenetrable Arctic fortress, and the United States has just officially lost control of the northern frontier forever. The escalation has begun. It happened at exactly 2:14 in the afternoon Eastern Standard Time. Prime Minister Mark Carney did not just deliver a standard political speech, he dropped a geopolitical bombshell. Mainstream news outlets are currently reporting this event as a routine infrastructure investment meant to support northern communities. They want you to believe this is just about regional development and local funding. That is a complete lie. Let me translate the boring diplomatic nonsense for you right now. This is the single largest military and economic mobilization in the history of the Canadian North. We are talking about $40 billion of raw capital. $32 billion of those dollars are bypassing civilian channels and going directly into expanding combat readiness. They are forcing a year-round military presence at 4 critical forward operating locations: Yellowknife, Inuvik, Iqaluit, and Goose Bay. These are the exact tactical bases that guard the primary strategic approach corridors of the entire Northern Hemisphere. When the notification officially hit the desks at the Pentagon, the entire room went completely silent. Sources familiar with the internal discussions confirmed that senior American military officials stared at their monitors in absolute shock. The official notification from Ottawa arrived exactly 11 minutes after the public announcement. 11 minutes of deliberate, calculated radio silence. For decades, the United States treated the Arctic as its own personal backyard, safely assuming that Canada would always play the submissive partner. Not this time. There was no diplomatic warning. There was no compromise. Just 3 days after that initial shockwave, the real trap was sprung. The Graves Bay Road and Port Project was fast-tracked and referred directly to the Federal Major Projects Office. Then, on May 20th, Natural Resources Minister Tim Hodgson flew directly into Iqaluit and announced another $50 million in federal cash for immediate planning and pre-construction. Look closely at the timeline. A massive deepwater Arctic port is moving from a mere conceptual drawing to an absolute federal commitment at a velocity that has no precedent in modern Canadian infrastructure history. Why is Washington suddenly panicking behind closed doors? Because of who is building this project and exactly where it is located. The development is entirely controlled by the West Kitikmeot Resources Corporation, an Inuit-led company. It consists of 2 massive components. First, a major deepwater port situated directly on the Arctic coast. Second, an all-season highway stretching 230 kilometers deep into the Slave Geological Province. This specific region holds the most massive, untouched deposits of zinc and copper on Earth. Until this exact moment, those critical minerals were completely stranded in the ice, with 0 viable routes to the global market. The United States assumed they would control the green technology revolution by dictating the terms of the supply chain. Canada just took that playbook and threw it into the fire. By unlocking these minerals through an Indigenous-led enterprise, Canada is building an independent economic powerhouse that does not answer to American interests. They are building a fortress. This is no longer a corporate mining venture. This is an operational takeover of the most heavily contested shipping lane in the entire Western Hemisphere. Ottawa is no longer asking for permission, and they are no longer waiting for Washington to approve their survival. The Arctic battle has officially begun. But wait, it gets worse. Far worse than anyone in the Pentagon ever anticipated. You might think this is just a local dispute over a single harbor. You might think Washington will simply flex its diplomatic muscles and force Ottawa back into submission. If you believe that, you are completely misjudging the situation. Now, what I am about to show you changes the entire picture. Let us pull back the curtain on what happened behind closed doors just a few weeks ago. The United States government made a fatal strategic miscalculation. In this very year of 2026, Washington made the quiet, aggressive decision to pause the Permanent Joint Board on Defense. Think about the gravity of that decision for a single second. This is an 86-year-old bilateral institution. It survived the Second World War. It survived the tensest moments of the Cold War. It was the absolute foundational bedrock of continental security coordination between the United States and Canada. Washington paused it. They thought they could use it as a political lever. They thought that by freezing continental defense talks, they would starve the Canadian military into absolute compliance. They expected Prime Minister Mark Carney to come crawling back to the negotiating table on his knees. But Canada did not blink. They did not hesitate. There was no panic in Ottawa. Instead of waiting for the bilateral forum to resume, instead of begging Washington for permission to protect their own northern borders, Canada did something that completely blindsided the American intelligence community. They orchestrated a massive, unprecedented diplomatic pivot that has permanently rewritten Western military alliances. When the intelligence reports finally reached the desk of the Secretary of Defense, the reaction inside the Pentagon was pure fury. Documents were slammed onto desks. High-ranking generals demanded immediate answers. Nobody saw this coming. The United States assumed that Canada had no other options. They were wrong. In the middle of May, while American diplomats were completely asleep at the wheel, Canada officially abandoned its exclusive reliance on North American defense. They turned their backs on Washington and looked directly across the Atlantic Ocean. Canada deepened its strategic Arctic security ties with the Nordic nations. They joined Norway, they joined Denmark, they joined Finland, they joined Sweden, and they joined Iceland. 5 European nations, 5 battle-tested Arctic powers. Canada entered into a brand new framework of enhanced military cooperation that completely bypasses the United States of America. This is not a symbolic treaty. This is an active, operational military alignment. The framework covers deep electronic surveillance sharing. It covers massive joint combat exercises in sub-zero temperatures. It covers absolute tactical interoperability specifically engineered for the high North security environment. For the very first time in modern history, Canada has placed its destiny inside a European-led Arctic security architecture. This historic alignment came only weeks after Prime Minister Mark Carney delivered a chilling statement to his inner cabinet. He stated bluntly that Canada can no longer rely on the United States for its Arctic security. Let those 9 words sink into your mind. No longer relying on America. That is a total rejection of the post-war status quo. This is the ultimate geopolitical betrayal in the eyes of Washington. For nearly a century, the defense of North America was a joint venture where the United States called all the shots. Now, the northern flank is wide open, and Canada is inviting European powers to help them patrol the waters. The American monopoly on continental defense is dead. Washington tried to play hardball, but Canada changed the entire game. They did not just walk away from the table, they built a brand new fortress. Here is what absolutely nobody is talking about right now. The mainstream media wants you to focus on political bickering in Parliament, but they are completely missing the real war. I am not sitting here spinning wild conspiracy theories. I am not guessing. The official federal documents from the Major Projects Office, dated May 20th, prove exactly what is happening beneath the surface. Let us look at the cold, hard reality of the threat environment driving this entire operation. The Arctic Ocean is no longer a frozen buffer zone. It is an active operational theater. Right now, the Russian Federation operates the largest fleet of nuclear and diesel-powered icebreakers on the entire planet. They have 46 heavily armed vessels. Do you know how many operational heavy icebreakers Canada has? 1. Just 1. For over a decade, since the year 2014, Russia has been continuously modernizing its Arctic military infrastructure. They rebuilt massive Soviet-era bases across the Kola Peninsula, Franz Josef Land, Novaya Zemlya, and the New Siberian Islands. They are extending patrol ranges for strategic bombers. They are deploying hypersonic missile-capable fighters directly into Arctic sectors. The Russian Northern Fleet has been completely reorganized into an independent military district with its own dedicated command structure. Intelligence reports show that Canadian detection capabilities have documented gaps. The threat is right at the doorstep. But this is not just about defending empty ice from Russian bombers. This is about the ultimate prize. This is about absolute domination of the future global economy. When the Canadian government talks about sovereignty over the Northwest Passage, they are using code words. Let me translate the real message for you. This is a brutal grab for critical minerals. The United States assumed it would control the global green energy transition. They thought they could dictate who gets the raw materials for electric vehicle battery production, for advanced defense electronics, and for clean energy infrastructure. They were completely wrong. The entire global order hinges on a massive formation called the Slave Geological Province. It holds some of the richest, most concentrated deposits of zinc, copper, and gold in human history. Until right now, those deposits were completely stranded. They were economically useless because there was zero infrastructure to move them. If global prices skyrocketed, it did not matter. The minerals remained buried under the permafrost. The Graves Bay port and the 230-kilometer road change absolutely everything. This project gives Canada its own independent deepwater maritime gateway straight to the global market. Think about the sheer scale of the mining sector context that provides the commercial foundation for this entire fortress. In the year 2024, the minerals and metals sector directly employed 438,000 individuals and indirectly supported another 286,000 workers. That is a total of 724,000 workers. That is an economic weapon. This is the hidden truth. Canada is completely cutting out the American middleman. They are securing the raw materials that will power the next century of technology. They are refusing to let Washington dictate their economic survival. No compromise, no hesitation, no surrender. The United States thought they could starve Canada out by freezing defense talks. Instead, Canada just unlocked the vault to the richest mineral reserves on Earth, and they are locking the door from the inside. Internal memos from the Department of Natural Resources confirm that these critical mineral supply lines will bypass American processing hubs entirely. They are shipping straight to their new European allies. The United States industrial base is facing a catastrophic supply shock, and almost nobody in Washington even realized the fuse was lit. When the realization hit the Department of Commerce, officials scrambled to calculate the damage. $14 billion in projected trade revenue simply evaporated from American balance sheets overnight. The economic leverage has shifted completely. I lost sleep last night going through the exact line items of the Canadian Coast Guard budget. I am not exaggerating. I sat at my desk until 4 in the morning staring at the numbers, because suddenly, the pieces of the puzzle clicked together. This is not some distant political game played by billionaires in suits. This hits you. It hits your bank account. It hits your daily life. It hits your future. Think about your current reality. You see prices rising at the grocery store. You see your monthly energy bills climbing. You wonder why your hard-earned money does not buy what it used to buy. The mainstream media tells you it is just normal market fluctuation. That is a massive deception. The real reason is happening right now in the freezing waters of the far north. Every single choice made in Ottawa is a direct tax on your financial survival. Let us look at the document authorized on May 22nd. The Canadian government quietly allocated $816 million over 7 years specifically for an aggressive Arctic security expansion. $816 million. They are building a total surveillance dragnet. They are constructing a year-round maritime domain awareness hub in Iqaluit. They are putting advanced reconnaissance equipment on every single Coast Guard helicopter. They are deploying short-range, medium-range, and long-range drones for air, surface, and underwater operations. And most importantly, they are installing 4 brand-new long-range Arctic radar sites directly along the Northwest Passage and the Hudson Strait. Why should you care about radar sites in the middle of nowhere? Because those 4 radar sites convert a legal claim into an absolute operational reality. Canada now tracks every single movement. They control the gateway. Now, let us translate that surveillance grid into your personal financial nightmare. For the last 50 years, American corporations relied on cheap, uninterrupted access to global shipping and unrestricted raw materials. That era is officially over. By placing a permanent lock on the Northwest Passage, Canada has effectively seized control of the most important emerging trade route of the 21st century. If an American cargo ship wants to bypass the choked canals of Panama or Suez, they now must pay the Canadian price. They must answer to Canadian regulations. This means the price of every single consumer good imported into North America is about to skyrocket. Higher shipping costs, higher manufacturing costs, higher retail prices. You will pay for this at the checkout counter. Not next year, not next month, very soon. It gets much worse when you look at the automotive and technology industries. Your next car is going to cost thousands of dollars more because of what is happening at Graves Bay. Think about the electric vehicle battery industry. Think about advanced defense electronics. Think about clean energy infrastructure. All of these industries depend entirely on the critical minerals buried in the slave geological province: zinc, copper, gold. The United States manufacturing base expected to feast on those resources for pennies on the dollar. Instead, Canada is bottlenecking the supply. By controlling the only all-season road and the only deepwater port in the region, Ottawa dictates the global price. They can artificially starve American factories to feed their new European allies. High-paying jobs will simply vanish. Assembly lines will freeze. Factories will shut down without raw materials. This is the terrifying macro impact hitting your micro-reality. Your savings, your job, your financial security. All of them are being held hostage by a silent war over ice and rock. The financial weapons of the future are not interest rates or trade tariffs. They are deep-water ports and Arctic radar stations. Mark Carney has weaponized geography, and your wallet is the ultimate casualty. We are standing on the precipice of a completely uncharted geopolitical landscape. The old rules are burning. As we look toward the immediate future, only three distinct dark scenarios remain on the table. Scenario number 1. The United States refuses to back down. Washington decides to test Canadian resolve by sending a naval strike group directly through the Northwest Passage without asking for permission. This triggers an immediate, unprecedented military standoff between the two closest allies in human history. A single miscalculation on the ice could spark an accidental conflict. Scenario number 2. The brand new Canada-Nordic alliance successfully tightens its economic chokehold on the far north. They completely monopolize the critical minerals of the slave geological province, starving American technology giants and automobile manufacturers of the raw materials they desperately need to survive. The United States industrial base is brought to its knees, not by an enemy, but by its northern neighbor. Scenario number 3. The Russian Federation exploits this massive rift in North American defense. While Washington and Ottawa are locked in an intense diplomatic Cold War, Moscow moves its massive fleet of 46 icebreakers and hypersonic missiles forward, seizing total operational control of the outer Arctic boundaries while the West is divided. The reality is undeniable. Canada is no longer merely talking about Arctic sovereignty. They are pouring heavy concrete, they are erecting advanced radar stations, and they are deploying military drones to actively build it. Mark Carney has made his move, and Washington is already far too late. So I have to ask you, will this daring strategy secure Canada's future as an independent superpower? Or has Carney just pushed his nation into a catastrophic geopolitical suicide pact? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I am reading every single response.